They called it Shiloh, a Hebrew word meaning place of peace. But for 23,000 Americans, it became hell on earth. What really happened in those Tennessee woods, and why did this battle change everything about how the Civil War would be fought? The bullet that struck General Johnston might have killed a man, but it couldn't kill the myth. Even as Confederates retreated from Shiloh, their commanders claimed victory. The truth? This battle broke the South in ways they couldn't admit and revealed the horrifying future of warfare to come. To help our endeavor, please like and subscribe to support the community. Confederate Lieutenant William G. Stevenson recounted the dreadful night of retreat on April 7th, a scene of suffering he hoped never to witness again. The retreating army trudged along a narrow, nearly impassable road. A line of wagons stretched ahead, packed with wounded men stacked like sacks of grain, their groans and curses mingling with the splashing of mules struggling through the mud. Behind them, a scattered infantry regiment pushed past the wagons, followed by 4 men carrying a wounded officer on a stretcher. Soldiers limped by, some with shattered arms dangling uselessly, others bearing ghastly wounds. As if the horrors weren't enough, the heavens unleashed their fury. A chill drizzle began at nightfall, growing heavier until it became a relentless, blinding deluge. Wagon after wagon rolled by, filled with wounded and dying men, many without even a blanket for cover. Nearly 300 perished during that harrowing retreat. Meanwhile, 760 miles east in Richmond, the Confederate capital, Beauregard's triumphant claims eventually gave way to grim reality. The truth was undeniable. The Confederacy had failed to retake the Mississippi Valley. Tennessee remained beyond their grasp. The balance of power in the West had not shifted. Davis's military advisor, Robert E. Lee, had warned that losing the Mississippi Valley would doom the Atlantic states, a grim prophecy now unfolding. The aftermath of the Battle of Shiloh, or Pittsburgh Landing, brought personal consequences. For the first time in his Civil War career, PGT Beauregard's reputation suffered. His premature victory telegram made him a target of scorn and mockery. Even the Union victors faced backlash. William Sherman was criticized by soldiers and civilians alike. Why, despite warnings, had he dismissed the threat of Johnston's forces? Years later, testifying before the Joint Committee on the Conduct of the War, Sherman glossed over his early campaigns, Bull Run, Kentucky, and especially Shiloh, choosing instead to focus on his Atlanta campaign. He claimed he was sparing the committee from, as he phrased it, an excessive waste of their time. His superior, Ulysses S. Grant, faced harsher scrutiny. Western governors, seeing their state's casualty lists, demanded answers. Why had he been caught unprepared at Shiloh? Why no reconnaissance? Even his own men muttered about his incompetence. Many dismissed the entire episode as a colossal blunder, an act of reckless negligence bordering on criminal. When Major General Henry Halleck, Grant's department commander, arrived on April 11th and took charge, he launched a painstakingly slow advance toward Corinth, now little more than a sprawling hospital, packed with sick and wounded Confederates suffering from dwindling supplies, typhoid, and dysentery. For the second time in 2 months, Grant considered resigning. But Sherman intervened, persuading him to stay. A crucial alliance was forming, one that would prove decisive in the years ahead. Despite its staggering losses, Shiloh ended in Union victory. The Confederates withdrew. Union forces retained the field and the strategic upper hand. That advantage grew almost immediately when news arrived of Island No. 10's fall on the Mississippi, mere hours after the guns at Shiloh fell silent. Now, western Tennessee and Memphis lay exposed. Yet Shiloh's bloodshed yielded another consequence. It forced Grant and his most capable officers to confront the brutal reality of war, what it demanded, what it would cost. As Grant himself later wrote, Before Shiloh, I, like many others, believed the rebellion would crumble swiftly if we dealt it a decisive blow. Victories at Fort Donelson and Henry seemed to prove it. But when the Confederates regrouped, not just holding their ground but launching fierce counterattacks, I realized the Union could only be preserved through total conquest. A grim revelation, one that 2 years later would bring devastation to Southern strongholds like Atlanta, the Shenandoah Valley, and the Carolinas. Robert E. Lee's earlier warning echoed ominously. Losing the Mississippi Valley would doom the Atlantic states. Shiloh stunned both North and South. But as Southern writer George Washington Cable later observed, the battle's true cost was measured in more than casualties. After Shiloh, the South never smiled again. When we return, we'll chronicle another fateful clash, a titanic struggle between Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant. Join us as we march to Central Virginia in May 1864, where their armies would collide in a desperate and defining confrontation. Shiloh was more than a battle, it was a turning point. A moment when the illusions of a quick war shattered, when the grim reality of total conquest took hold. For Grant, it was a lesson written in blood. For the South, it was the beginning of an irreversible decline. As the smoke cleared, one truth remained. The Confederacy would never recover. The road ahead led only to more devastation. Atlanta's flames, the Shenandoah's scorched earth, the Carolinas' ruin. The Civil War had changed forever. And as the next chapter loomed, two titans, Grant and Lee, would soon clash in battles even more brutal. The war's endgame had begun. Until next time, remember, history isn't just about battles. It's about the moments that change everything.